Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and we are getting to the very pointy end of it now with some brakes and some rear end fitment. Let's go. All right, those of you watching last week will have seen that I struggled with the brakes for a bit, and I've been fighting for the last week or so with brake leaks everywhere. I've been going around and just sort of nipping it up. I've had to be very careful because I usually park Archie underneath, and I don't want brake fluid on the paint and killing the paint on Archie. So it's time to go around now. I think I've got on top of pretty much all of the brake fluid leaks. It's time to try and bleed some brakes. Okay, so many of you saw last week that I put the brake system together, but I didn't actually bleed it properly. I left it to do some gravity bleeding, which is a good way to get rid of some of the air if you've got some time. A quicker way is I went down to Supercheap and I got myself one of these, which is a vacuum brake bleeder. And these things are really good, one-man sort of operation. This little rubber nipple goes on the end and connect up to an air hose, air line, basically creates a vacuum in here and it sucks the fluid through, and you just keep watching the line as the fluid comes through and check for any bubbles, and when the bubbles stop, hopefully your brakes are bled. So let's give it a crack. Starting at the furthest from the master cylinder. All right, I definitely could see a lot of air bubbles coming out through the line then, and hopefully it started slowing down. I think I've done a reasonable job, but I probably have to go back and do it again. I'll just make sure I go through and top up the master cylinder on the way. So as you can see here, it's taken a lot of the fluid from the master cylinder. So that's something you've got to monitor. Keep topping it up, because if you suck that dry, then you're going to do it all over again. You've got air all through the system and you start again. Okay, so I've gone around the car a couple of times with this bleeder. These things are really good, particularly if you're doing like brake fluid changes and things like that. Like these things are great. You can actually suck the fluid out of the master cylinder and you can do the one-man brake fluid change. Works quite well. I had the similar issue with the Datsun, and I've had issues, and friends have had issues before with a completely dry system. The one-man method doesn't seem to work quite as well as the two-man pump the pedal up, release the pressure and move on. So I think I might give that a go tomorrow, but moving on for now. Before I tried to fit this rear bar, and it gets close, but the bottom is just touching, and I was looking at the way I built this exhaust several years ago now. I cut and modified the original exhaust, which was quite beaten up and pretty ugly and badly damaged, and I will probably replace it at some stage. It's definitely not the prettiest, neatest thing that matches in with the rest of the car, but at the moment it is killing my OCD because it's not even. It's slightly off to that side of the car, and it's also slightly twisted. That is really messing with my head, and I'm going to do something about it. So I was going to just try and modify this rear bar, and this rear bar goes on most of the way, but this will emphasize it more. When I try and sit it up like that, it's covering a bit of the lights over there, and it's not over here. It's all out, and I'm not happy. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to cut it off and weld it back on again straight. Okay, so when you have a little bit closer look at this car, at the exhaust, this is what somebody else welded on before I got the car, and this is sitting, as you can see, it's sitting just a little bit higher than the rest of the exhaust manifold, and then on the other side, it's welded on and it's sitting, you know, a bit more to the low side. So I think I can cut them off about there and rejig the exhaust, move it around, get it exactly where I want it, try and get it as straight as possible and weld it back on again. All right, so now I've cut the exhaust off. I've been able to get it so it's much straighter with the car and got it roughly where I want it. But I don't have that many exhaust bands at the moment, and I'm just going to cobble this together because I just don't have the access to the stuff that I need, and this is going to get replaced. This is temporary, but it still needs to work. And as I've cut it, you can see how far it's currently off. So it's about the same on either side. You can see there that it's now off from where it was, and my plan is to actually cut it about an inch back from where I've cut it there, and then rotate the whole part up around that last little piece of the bend. If I cut it square with this cut here, it should weld together reasonably well. I can twist this around and join the parts back up again. That is the plan anyway, so let's see if that actually works. All right, I've got Mrs. Jeff out now to give me a hand to bleed the brakes. Let's see if we can do it the old manual method. So basically what we're going to get her to do is pump the pedal about 5 times and then hold it down. I'll crack the bleed nipple and let out some air, lock it off, then she can release and do it again. That's the plan. Let's do it. All right, and pump. Well, there's a couple of little air bubbles. Yep, and pump. They all seem good, so let's do the back. All right, and pump. Now pump it again and see if it gets firm.
Not firm. Definitely not firm now.
That's good. I think we've bled the brakes.
Yay!
Yay! That worked. I think the vacuum bleeder there actually did quite a good job. It was just having the 2-person method, I think, makes a big difference. It makes it just...
How would you do it with another person?
I've got the vacuum bleeder that I used yesterday.
It's going to say you have like a really long, extendable leg.
Yeah.
Like a gadget leg.
That would be really handy. The 2-person bleed is the best method for a reason, particularly with a completely dry system, but we actually have a brake pedal now, so I think we're really getting there. I can get back onto the exhaust. That is a huge improvement. The angles I've got on there are not going to be the greatest flowing things, and I definitely have to do something about this exhaust at some stage, but the priority at the moment is get it on the road. I can sort out the rest of the details later. So that is looking good. All I need to do now is I need to change these straps. At the moment the bolting points are sitting below where the bumper is, and I want to hide them up under the bumper. So I'm just going to try and move the straps around, and then we can start looking at putting the bumper back on. Okay, so the next thing I need to tackle is a little bit more wiring. I bought these simple little number plate lights. They're basically just a bolt that bolts the number plates on that doubles up as a globe. Nice, simple, easy solution, but I need to do some, they're just bare wires on the end. I need to actually connect these up into the loom. I need to do something that's small enough that I can obviously pass through the hole in the number plate and the hole in the bumper so that I can get them on and off. So let's do some wiring. I'll put a link in the description to these. All right, we're wired up now, and the last thing I need to do before I can fit this bar properly, it's sitting up really tight now, and it's actually touching the exhaust pipes, and obviously that is not going to work. It's going to get too hot and be a real issue. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to trim out just the bottom here. You won't actually see it from above. It's just the very bottom of this fiberglass piece on both sides, just so it's got a little bit of clearance, and then we can fit it to the car and hopefully it can stay there. Okay, that was far more work than I expected it to be, but I finally have the rear end all back on, the bumper on. There's some clearance. There's not a lot of clearance, but there's clearance with the exhaust, and the tail lights are all in and working. All the lights work. It's all back together, which is a big step. So the last thing I need to tackle is that these exhausts are actually too long. When I built them, I didn't know how long I needed them because I built them off of the car, and now the pipes stick out too far. I do want them to stick out a bit. I'm going to measure them up. I'll probably make them sit just behind these bumperettes. So they're just sort of sitting at a nice spot at the back of the car. To get a nice straight cut, I find the cable tie trick is a good one. So wrapping a cable tie around, and that way I can actually mark all the way around and you get a nice straight square cut, as opposed to just winging it and then you're offset or crooked or whatever. Cable tie, nice method. I'll mark around and we'll cut these off, and the rear end should be finally back together. That is looking good. I really like the back end of this car. It's looking great. So now I just need to chuck the wheels back on it and chuck it back on the ground and see what it looks like. Oh man, this car looks good like it is. I'm really happy with the way it's coming together. I probably would like it still a little bit lower, just a tad. And it's very close to me actually being able to move this car under its own power, which is going to be amazing because I have never had it moving under its own power. So that is going to be a huge step. There's still a lot of interior stuff to tidy up and things like that, but the core of it is close. It's so close I can taste it. Anyway, that is definitely all I have time for this week, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will join me on Patron if you want to watch these videos a day earlier and help us out. And make sure, if you're going to be shopping for any Porsche parts, make sure you go to PorschePartsByJeff.com and check out prices there first. All right, guys. See you next time.